What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Mobalytics video, and today we're breaking down the best champions for every single role in patch 12.17. All those champion changes have made a much bigger difference than we'd first expected, so you'll see some new faces as well as some of the usual suspects in this video. Before we get into it though, don't forget to click the link in the description and head on over to our Mobalytics website. There's tons of champion information on there like builds and runes and guides, and we also have our desktop app which can help you out when you're actually in game too, providing matchup advice, combo demonstrations and much more. So don't miss out. Alright then, let's start off with the top lane then, and the first one is a little bit of a new face, and that's going to be Udyr. When Udyr was first reworked, he was a little bit disappointing. People didn't really know how to play him. There was people first timing everywhere, so his stats were a little bit skewed. But now he's really put himself in the top tiers in both the top and the jungle. Now the way that you build Udyr is basically just full tank with a demonic embrace. Surprise, surprise. This item is incredibly strong. And with Udyr's no ultimate Wingborne Storm, it deals a hell of a lot of damage. So the aim of the game, whether you're playing Udyr in the top or the jungle, is to just get as tanky as possible, run around in circles, deal a lot of damage, and just be completely unkillable. You can survive for what seems like forever in even the most unlikeliest of situations and fights. It can be so difficult for people to shut you down unless they have a crazy amount of tank shredding champions on their team. And then you can just ghost away, especially with your E providing CC immunity. At the end of the day, what is a Vayne actually going to be able to do to you when you just CC immune her condemn and just run at her and take her down? Now Udyr has always had such a unique playstyle, and when he's strong, he's really irritating to play against. And right now, this is more obvious than ever before. If you like playing tanky, unkillable top laners that also pack a serious punch, then give Udyr a go. Our second pick though is one that has been strong for a while, and that's going to be Shen. Now I probably don't need to go into too much detail as to why Shen is so strong, because everyone should probably know it by now. He's naturally tanky, he's a really good duelist, and he has a global ultimate to carry games from that top lane. You can actually fight people pretty well early on with the damage that your Q and your auto attacks provide. Your W can also help you win a lot of trades, and if you get into any trouble, you just use your taunt backwards and escape back to your tower. You can set up ganks super well with this taunt as well. You can lock up multiple targets in teamfights with it, but it really is that ultimate which is what Shen is all about. Now whether it's in the lane phase, teleporting to that bot lane and turning around a counter gank into your team's favor, or fighting around those early dragons. In the early to mid game, it's already a game changer. But as the game progresses, you just set up camp in a side lane and you always have the opportunity to join in any fight, as long as your ultimate's up. Teleport really isn't that popular at the moment, but Shen can still take it so that he doesn't miss out on any farming experience. And of course, just in case his ult isn't up, he just TPs to the fight instead. The teleport isn't just the best thing about this ultimate though, it's actually the shield too. And if you've got a really fed AD carry or a mid laner on your team, you teleport to them, you keep them alive, and you kill everyone in the process. If you are a top lane main in this season, in this patch, you should definitely have Shen in your arsenal. Another champion that has been really strong for a while now is Mobalytics. Now, especially in low elo, this guy is an absolute demon. I don't know what it is, but there's some champions in the game that people just don't know how to play against, and Mobalytics is one of them. He's got that isolation damage on his Q, really good wave clear with it too. He's got that E to set up ganks and fights. He's got that W shield, the passive damage, and of course his ultimate, which is the most iconic and identifiable part of Mobalytics' kit. One of the greatest things about Mobalytics is he's actually really good in lane. He's a bit of a lane bully, and this encourages junglers to come and gank him. But as soon as you're level 6, you turn that into a 1v1 every time. So if you have already got a lead on the enemy top laner, you just force them into a 1v1 fight with you. The enemy jungler stands around wishing they weren't there, and you probably end up getting a double kill. If Mobalytics gets fed, you're going to need so many items to take him down. You need anti-shields and anti-heals, you need penetration, but also you need magic resist, because the sheer amount of damage this guy does is super high. As the game progresses, Mobalytics just snowballs into an insanely good duelist. He can force those duels in teamfights with his ultimate, which is so good against champions and comps with loads of peel. And if they have got someone in particular that's really strong, you just isolate them and take them down. If you are struggling to rank up in low elo especially, make sure you start playing Mobalytics. Now in this video, we're going to include an extra choice for every single role that you should be looking out for. And our one to watch in that top lane is actually going to be Maokai. He got a lot of changes in patch 12.17 and they've really made a difference. His win rate alone in the top lane has shot up by 4 to 5%. And he's already good as a support, and he's starting to show his face in the jungle too. Maokai is a fantastic frontliner. He has really good reliable CC. His ultimate is now so much better than it was. He has a lot of sustain and a lot more damage than he did have previously too. So if you're looking to try someone new, give this guy a go, and be careful if you're against him because he might be stronger than you may think. Let's move into the jungle now. This is a role that requires a lot more proactive thinking, and it's actually going to matter more than you think to play the best and strongest champions here too. So let's start off with one champion that got changed pretty significantly last patch, Hecarim. Now when Hecarim is strong, the Summoner's Rift becomes a far more terrifying place. And there are very few things quite as terrifying as a fed pony sprinting towards you. The damage potential that this guy has when he's fed is one thing, but it's also that AoE CC and mobility and healing and defensive capability that this guy offers too, which make him so hard to beat. Now there's quite a few different builds floating around for this guy as people figure out how to settle him back into the meta. You've got several different mythic options like Chem Tank, Divine Sunderer, Trinity Force and so on, But the Muramana, Lucidity Boots, Sundara and Death Stance build seems to be the one that's most popular right now. Hecarim's ban rate has instantly shot straight through the roof, and there's no surprise there really because playing against a good Hecarim is often not a fun experience. Hecarim's jungle clear is pretty healthy, his early ganks are really good, but it's his mid game where it becomes an absolute menace. And if he does get a few kills in that early game and start snowballing, he can be really hard to beat. If you are a jungle main heading into patch 12.17, it's definitely time to pick up Hecarim again. Now, one champion that has been strong for a while now and is not getting any weaker, and that's Fiddlesticks. Now, previously we mentioned one of the scariest champions in the game to play against, which is a fed Hecarim, but no other champion is literally as terrifying as this guy. Fiddlesticks has a super efficient jungle clear if you juggle all the camps together. Well, not literally all of them, but you know what I mean. He has some pretty good early ganks, but once he gets his ultimate, he just becomes insanely strong. Genuinely, this ultimate makes you have to play the entire game differently. You always have to be careful of Fiddlesticks lurking in the shadows, ready to jump over walls and core you all to death. Yes, that Crow Storm is pretty damn menacing. And whether it's in early ganks, dragon team fights, or any other part of the game, this ultimate can easily be game changing. If Fiddlesticks does get fed and he gets that early Zhonya's, he gets some damage under his belt, he can really hurt and also be really hard to take down. And if you don't have too much CC to prevent him from draining, you're never going to kill him. Fiddlesticks has been having a fantastic time over the last few patches, and this just doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon, unless we see some big nerfs coming his way. Finally, we've also got to talk about Master Yi, and his win rate is pretty damn absurd. Now, there are very few champions in the entire game that spike just as hard as this guy does once he gets that Blade of the Ruin King and Guinsoo's Rage Blade. These two items and some cheeky boots are all he needs to start one-shotting people, and as long as he doesn't get too far behind, this is going to happen fairly often. If you do manage to build a comp around Master Yi though, this is when his win rate jumps up significantly higher. There are two main types of champions that Master Yi loves playing alongside, either big frontliners with loads of CC or a boatload of enchanters. If you pick champions like Seraphine, Taric and Zilean alongside Yi, he's never going to die, and he has more than enough damage to kill entire teams by himself. He's basically a melee AD carry on steroids. And despite his win rate being pretty up and down all season, it's definitely one of the most consistent high points it has been so far. One of the most attractive things about Master Yi though as well is how easy he is to play. He's really easy to clear the jungle with, and he's really easy to actually kill people with. So whether you're bronze, gold or diamond, he's still a great jungler to play. Our one to watch in the jungle though is going to be Nocturne, another champion who got some buffs and changes in this week's patch. And his win rate and success rate has already significantly improved. Nocturne is one of those champions that you just don't really want to play against, and in solo queue his ultimate is just so effective at punishing those overextended enemies, which happens so damn often. Oh look, there's a Caitlyn pushing into my tower at 6 minutes into the game. I get my ultimate and I ult her, she dies. I go clear a few camps, I get a good reset, I get my ultimate back up and I kill her again. I do this a few more times, I take 4 dragons and just win the game off it. This is just how simple Nocturne can be if people don't respect you. Let's move on over to that mid lane now and start off with one champion who you'll definitely be familiar with, Zed. And I'm sure this noise will definitely give you all some PTSD. Zed is one of the longest serving mid lane assassins in the game, and he's been terrorizing those immobile mage mains for as long as I can remember. He has a huge amount of mobility, lots of burst damage, and of course his ultimate is one of the scariest things to play against if he's got a few kills under his belt. If you're playing against him in lane, he's got his ultimate up and you haven't got any summoner spells and he's already got a few kills under your belt, he can probably just tower dive you every time he sees you. And with no help from your jungler, it's probably GG. Now, although there's lots of different things that can counter Zed in the game now that weren't there back in the day, he's still absolutely dominating at the moment. And his snowball potential is absolutely insane. Zed is actually quite a bit easier than people realise, but he is definitely one of those champions that you can become much better at once you mastered him. And those Zed one tricks that have been playing him for a long time are definitely some of the scariest ones to face. He's got really good poke in lane with his Shadow Shuriken combo, he's got his E to add to that for extra burst, and he's got his passive which packs a serious punch too. And if he does get fed, he can just run around the map one-shotting people without even needing to use his ultimate. Like a lot of champions in the mid lane, Zed is very matchup specific though. And if you do pick him early on and you go against a Gragas or a Pantheon main, you're probably going to have a tough time. But this patch he's definitely in the best place he's been in for a while. So if you are a mid lane main and you like playing assassins, get back to playing Zed. Now a champion that's completely different to Zed is going to have to be Swain, and this guy is easily one of the best champions in the game and has been since his update. He's got some pretty crazy win rates in like 4 different roles, but his mid lane is definitely where he belongs. In that lane phase you've got really good poke, but you've also got fantastic pick potential with your E, which is also incredible at setting up ganks. You can scout the enemy jungler with one click of your W, and then just continue to play stupidly aggressive because you know they're nowhere near you. Now whether you get a kill or 2 pre-6 doesn't really matter too much because once you get that ultimate you are now so much better. Seriously, the damage is one thing, but the healing is what makes you so damn hard to beat. Especially if you're fighting against multiple enemies in those early dragon fights, you've got a few items on your belt like that Liandry's, that Rylai's and those boots. Alongside Conqueror, this thing is going to keep you healed up forever. And then you just press R again and deal a hell of a lot of burst damage too. Swain is a monster when it comes to extended fights because of that ultimate, especially against melee heavy team comps. But he also has really good pick potential and lockdown with that E, which is actually really hard to dodge, especially if you don't see it coming. Swain is a great pick into so many different lanes and matchups. He scales really well and he doesn't really have too many weak parts to his game. So if you main that mid lane, keep playing him before he gets nerfed. Finally, we have a mid laner that hasn't actually been in these lists for a while. He's been performing just fine for the majority of this season, but recently he's really started to pick up again, and that's Akshan. Akshan is a crazy strong lane bully right from the off, especially against low range melee lanes. You auto attack and bully them down so quickly, and this often turns into a level 2 or level 3 kill. And then you just start snowballing and then the lane is already over. Your Q offers fantastic poke throughout minion waves alongside your auto attacks, and then you can just swing in whenever they're low enough to take them down, and swing back out again. This means you can just start tower diving your enemy lane opponent over and over. And there's nothing more tilting to getting back into lane and dying instantly. Poking and winning lanes is not where it ends for Akshan though, because he's also got his stealth, which allows him to roam so effectively, which is why he's having the most success in the mid lane. Your roaming and your ganking is so strong because you just stealth into their lane and then just swing right up to them and take them down. And like we said earlier, swing back out again. This allows you to solo carry games so easily. It's not just about snowballing your own lane, but it's also about carrying the rest of the map so easily too. And sometimes you don't even need to get all the way down to that bot lane or up to that top lane, because all you got to do is press your ultimate and kill those escaping enemies at low health. The final reason as to why Akshan is just so good at carrying games though is that revival passive. The enemy team think they finally won that big team fight. You swoop in, you kill one person and revive your whole team. GG, well played.
Dear friends, please stop dying. Love, Akshan.
Our champion to look out for in the mid lane though is Gragas. Gragas is actually so much better in that mid lane than you might think, and if you're good enough at him, you can carry games so easily. Gragas is such an anti-melee monster, and if you're good enough at this guy, you can combo people in so many different creative ways. His win rate is pretty damn impressive in that mid lane. He's definitely more of a counter pick than a blind pick, unless you're baiting the enemy into thinking that you're jungle or top lane, of course. But he definitely is one you can carry with. He's got fantastic ganks, he's really good in skirmishes, and once you've got those ability-based items, you can become simply unplayable. So if you're loading into that mid lane and you see a Gragas with 1 million mastery, be careful. Let's move down to the bot lane now and look at those AD carries, and starting off with Miss Fortune. She has been consistently performing very well just under those S tier champions for quite a while, and this patch right introduced some changes encouraging people to build her like a crit based AD carry again. But unfortunately for them, this actually made her a little bit broken, and she's already received a hotfix nerf. Thankfully for you Miss Fortune mains though, it hasn't made enough difference yet, and she's still performing very well indeed. Miss Fortune is a super threatening lane bully right from that lane phase. She can poke you down super easily with her E and her Q, she can farm so easily with her love tap passive, and once she gets her ultimate, she becomes so much harder to play against. Now if you manage to lock Miss Fortune in as an AD carry alongside a good CC heavy support like a Mumu or Leona, you're going to have a lot of fun. And if you're playing against punishable enemies with not much mobility, you're just going to be able to farm them on repeat every time that ultimate is up. Then it'll just get to the point where you don't even need your ultimate to just one-shot them, especially if you land a few Qs through those back minions. After the lane phase, you just start dealing insane amounts of AoE damage and teamfights, and this is really what your playstyle is all about. And now that you're actually able to build like a crit based AD carry and you're not just locked into relying on your ultimate, you can actually deal some insane damage with your auto attacks too, which also innately helps with your scaling. Now the only thing you do have to be careful of is playing against lots of hard engage against lots of assassins as this champion, because at the end of the day you don't have any dashes. But as long as you use your movement speed passive well enough, you should be able to run around in circles and dodge those big abilities. Moving on to our second of the best AD carries this patch, and we have to mention Tristana. By far one of the strongest early game AD carries in the entire roster. She has the ability to stomp those lanes so early on with the damage she deals with that bomb. And the fact she gets W resets means she can do this even easier and with far less risk too. You press your E, you press your Q, you auto attack them down and jump on top of them, then you get a reset. Then once you've exploded that bomb, you can jump on top of them yet again, and then once you've killed them, you get another reset and you jump back out to safety again. Tristana scales really well. She has a fantastic mid game, especially if she gets fed in the early game, and her ability to take those plates and tear through structures with that bomb is also fantastic too. So if you do win lane, you can also get really far ahead on the gold you accrue from these towers too. The main thing about Tristana is not falling behind. Her playstyle is all about jumping on targets and getting those resets and using that early damage to burst people down. So if you do lack damage, you're going to be a bit of a non-factor. But if you do pick up this champion, especially if you're in a duo bot, you're on the right page with your support, you know when to all in, you can play really aggressively together, you're going to win a lot of games on this champion this patch. Our third AD carry to talk about that's performing super well this patch is Kog'Maw. Definitely one of the more underrated champions you can go for, but he's been having a really good time over recent weeks, and this isn't looking like it's going to change anytime soon. Now Kog'Maw is a fantastic scaling long range AD carry. The damage he deals to tanks and all types of targets is insane with that W. And if you pick him alongside a really strong enchanter like a Lulu or a Nami or a Yuumi, you're going to have a lot of fun. There are very few champions in the game that scale just as well as Kog'Maw does, and if you do get to those very late game stages of any game, you're probably going to win, as long as you can position yourself well enough. The main thing you've got to worry about is assessing all the threats that you have to deal with, and as long as you avoid those big CC or hard engaging abilities or burst mages or assassins, you're going to be absolutely fine. Sit right at the back, press R a few times, press your W and auto attack everyone to death. You're simply going to melt all types of targets here. Full tanks with 6 items or a squishy AD carry, they're going to die in the same time. So just press W and have fun. A one to watch for the AD carry position is Nilah. Now, she's actually not played that much, despite being a really fun champion to play. But over recent weeks, she's really cemented herself as actually quite a cheeky pocket pick to go for. She's without a doubt not the kind of AD carry you can just pick straight away and hope for the best. You need to be able to pick it into the right matchups. She is pretty niche, she's got that very low range, and if you pick it in someone that can just simply outrange you and you can't get onto them, you're never going to be able to play the game. Nilah's W is a fantastic tool though to win trades. She's got incredible experience advantages with her passive, and then that ultimate is so damn good at winning 2v2s and 2v3s. If you do get fed on Nilah, you snowball so quickly, and you basically just take on everyone. Whoever comes into the bot lane to take you down, you press your R, you jump around a few times, and you deal a huge amount of AoE damage with that splash damage from your Q. In the right game, she's a great choice to go for. Right, let's finally finish off this video with the last role of the day, and of course it's the supports. And the first one is Amumu. You probably never thought you'd actually see Amumu support being this viable. Like, it's actually ridiculous how strong he is. And to be honest, all it actually took for him to be viable, and more than viable, was just the 2 charges on his Q. Back when Riot gave him this change, he was already a fantastic support, but they nerfed him so hard with the mana cost of it, it just wasn't good enough. However, ever since they buffed him again to give him a bit more mana back on it, he's just been everywhere. It is simply so easy to win games on Amumu support. Like, all you gotta do in lane is jump on your enemy twice with your Q from as early as level 1. And as long as your fellow AD carry has the damage and has the initiative to follow you up, you're probably just gonna get super fed. You have really strong all-in potential pre-6, but once you do get your ultimate, you're so much stronger already. I mean, it's literally an AoE CC ability, so it's perfect for 2v2 bot lane fights. Amumu is fantastic at snowballing bot lane, but he's also exceptional at setting up ganks too for the very same reasons of just offering so much crowd control. And as the game progresses, as you get in towards the mid to late game big team fights, all you gotta do is try and land those big 5-man ultimates. That's the only task you have. And if you pull it off, you set up a good engage, you're probably gonna win the fight. So not only is the champion pretty basic to learn, but his principles are very simple too. Land a 5-man ult and win the game. Next up is probably the best support of the season so far, and she's still in a fantastic spot, Janna. Ever since those updates to her kit and her sort of mini rework, well, she's basically just been broken. We really don't need to beat around the bush with this one, she's just incredibly strong. She offers so much throughout games. She's got her Q to set up fights or disengage, she's got her W to slow people and land picks, she's got those constant shields to save lives or even just boost people's damage, and of course her ultimate can be absolutely pivotal. As long as Janna always has that ultimate up, you never know if you can actually kill her or not, unless you land the perfect burst CC combo. She can turn any fight into her favour completely against the odds, and that's why she's winning just so many games. She's an incredibly good pick into so many diving, engaging assassins or hard engaging tanks, and she can shut down any attempt at any fight. But the best thing about Janna by far above all the rest is she really does fit that proper support playstyle. So if you are a true support main, you love saving lives, you love protecting your allies, then Janna really is the definition of this. Our third support is Renata Glask, and another solid utility based support that scales well into all games. Renata has been fantastic since her release, easily one of the best supports in the game ever since. And it really is just due to the sheer amount of utility that she actually has, very similar to Janna. Her kit is so versatile, even down to the very fine things like her passive just adding a bit more damage. Her Q handshake is so much fun to use, and by the way, what an awesome name for an ability. You can use this to set up CC alongside your ultimate, and we all know just how insane Renata Glask's ultimate is. If you manage to angle Renata's ult right in a team fight, it's so delightful to watch, like you just genuinely watch an entire enemy team kill themselves. To add to that though, you've also got those shields and slows, and of course your W. And that revive can be absolutely brutal if you use it at the right time on the right person. Renata Glask works so well with so many different champions because of this one ability. Samira can dive teams with low risk because of that W farming pentakills, Katarina can do the same, and basically anyone that just wants to constantly fight around their cooldowns. By far the best thing about Renata Glask though is she's just really enjoyable. Every so often Riot come out with a new support champion that just feels so different to the traditional support playstyle, and it feels great. Thresh was one of the first ones with all that utility in his lanterns and his hooks, then you had champions like Pyke who are completely different and Senna, and then they gave us Renata Glask, and we simply love her. And if you haven't seen the new Fright Night skin coming out soon, well then you're missing out because that looks awesome. Finally we have the one to watch in the support role, and it's gonna have to be Zyra. the poking plants, the catch potential, the AoE damage with that ultimate. There is a lot of fun to be had on this champion, and she's been quietly coasting along all season doing pretty well, but recently she's really taken off to a whole new level. You don't see this one very often, but when you do, you remember just how strong it is and how hard it can be to play against it, especially when she's partnered up with someone who can share her strengths like a Caitlyn, so have fun trying to beat that lane in combo. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of our best champions for every role in patch 12.17. Remember, you can find out all sorts of other champion information over on our website, so click the link in the description, and as we said before, don't miss out. Let us know in the comments who you think is one to watch this patch. Thanks again for watching everyone, and we'll see you in the next video. Take care.